Hey, everybody. Welcome, one and all. All right. Well, we've got a really exciting show lined up for you today. I've got the one, the only Pete Johns of Studio live today in my studio, virtually. So, without further ado, Pete's got somewhere he's got to get to, so we got to get down to business. So, I'm going to bring him right on in. Let's bring him in. Let's give a warm welcome to the one and only Pete Johns.
Oh, old school for the win. Hello to you, Tom. Hello, fine party people. I hope you're all doing exceptionally well. It's a pleasure. My first time on the
Yeah,
Thomas
it's so great
Price
to have
channel,
you
if you
here
can
on the
believe
channel.
it.
How are you doing today, Pete?
I'm really good. I'm in a relaxed and laid-back mood, so you're probably going to get the warts and all version of me today, because Wednesdays
We love
morning
it.
here in Australia, usually my day off. But I make the ultimate sacrifice to come and chat with Tom and chat with you fine folks. So
Awesome.
yeah, all very good, ready and raring to go. You having a good week?
Yeah. And how about yourself?
Yeah, ticking along. Like I say, busy but good busy. I'd rather have things to do and be busy than sit around twiddling my thumbs. That's why I got out of the corporate world and started this YouTube journey. How's that for a
Yes,
segue?
there you go. All right, well, I'll say hello to everybody in a little bit, but we're going to get started here. So I want to ask you first, right off the bat, tell us about just what you do currently on your channel and what people can expect if maybe they're tuning in for the first time, they haven't seen your shows before.
Yeah, well, Studio Live today. It's a bit of a weird and funny name, although it worked today for your intro, so that was good. I came up with the name for, like all good things, I named it first, and then I worked out what the heck I was going to do with it. So Studio Live today, I was sitting watching the cricket for my Australian friends, and one day, and I'm like, I need to do something with music. So I'm going to register a domain name. And I decided Studio Live today, after many different sort of iterations, worked well. I like threes, the rule of three, and it was available as a domain. So registered the domain and then went, okay, now what do I do with it? At the time I was using an app called Reaper, which was a
Yes.
PC door. I know you're familiar with it and many folks would be familiar. And I was just finding it was too difficult. I didn't have a lot of time. I was a full-time worker, full-time father, full-time husband. So I needed something simple. Started using GarageBand and went, hey, this is it. This is my spirit animal. So started creating GarageBand tutorials at that point. And that was now coming up 8 years ago. And we're still kicking along. So what's on my channel? It is still a lot of GarageBand tutorials. It's still my goal, my mission statement is to help folks create, record, and release their best music. And because I use mostly mobile tools such as GarageBand for iPad, GarageBand for iOS, and more recently Logic Pro for iPad, that's what I sort of focus on. And I guess I wanted to blend a couple of things because I saw a lot of channels out there that were doing a lot of great tutorial content, but there was no connection with a person. It was all very much just show your screen, show the information, a little bit dry. And then there was the channels that were the opposite, which was over the top, and they spent the first 10 minutes telling you who they were and what they were and how they were, and tutorials that took 10 minutes to tell you what they were going to do before they actually did it. So my goal was to kind of create something in between where I have a bit of my own personality in there, sprinkled in, but the focus is still on the learning. It's still on the creating, recording, and releasing music. So that's where we're at. And more recent times, as you know, because you are a moderator on the channel and you help me with these live streams, I do a lot of live shows as well. So I have 4 weekly live shows, 3 weekly live shows and a podcast, which is sometimes live. And that spans Your Music Live, which is showcasing other people's music, my own happy hour where I just sit and jam on some acoustics, the GarageBand Weekly Show, which is kind of the flagship of the channel because we're all about GarageBand, and then the weekly podcast. So yeah, I like to think that it's the true concept of a channel. There's something in there for everyone. Not everyone will love every show or want to tune in for every show, but there's something there for most folks if you're into creating and recording and even listening to music.
Absolutely. And don't forget, we got the link is Jade just put the link in the chat. Thank you very much, Jade. And you can go in the description, and I got all the links there that you could possibly want, and
I saw that.
including
You've
the
got
links
links
to.
there that I didn't know I had. So Thomas is all over
I got all the links for Pete. So
it.
sometimes it's like I just have to remember like the what codes that I put stuff under and all that stuff. But yeah.
Very
Um,
cool.
But now, just kind of getting back, because I think I had this on the list to ask you. Anyway, Studio Live Today. So you came up with the name Studio Live Today before you came up with the channel.
I did, yeah, which I know is a little bit weird. If anyone watched the Dilbert animated series, it was kind of like the Gruntmaster 3000. They're like, all right, we need the name, and then we'll work out what the product does. So I feel a little bit like that I got the name, and then it's like, well, what am I actually going to do with this? But I did have, one of the really early original concepts was, because I was watching a lot of other channels at the time. I was watching likes of Joe Gilder on Home Studio Corner. I was watching Graham Cochran and recording. I can't remember his name of his channel now. Lid Shaw over at Recording
Oh
Studio
yeah.
Rockstars. So I was watching all these channels, and my original idea was like a daily digest show where I'm like, okay, here's what everyone's doing, almost like a bringing together, like similar to what Frank Terzo's doing now with his Community Pulse. For those that know Frank and his work, and I thought Studio Live Today would be cool because at that point I didn't have I didn't think I knew enough. I didn't think I knew enough to create my own original content. So I thought, what's the next best thing? It is creating content to point people to other people's content. So that was kind of the original concept. And then I realized two things. A daily live show was not something I could swing, considering I had a full-time job at the time. And I didn't have a good enough internet connection to do live streaming. So, and not to mention, the
Did
talent
they
of not
have
being
live
able to.
streaming back then?
Back in the old days, so I mean, we can talk retro, but
Yeah.
originally I used something called Google Hangouts on air, which
Okay,
was
I
the
remember
only real
that.
way. There was no StreamYard, there was no Restream, there was no Ecamm Live, there was no real sort of third party way apart from using Google Hangouts on air, which you could link to YouTube because Google and YouTube were kind of the same thing. So around the 2016, 2017 era, when I first sort of started, I experimented with some live streaming, but at the time I had really slow DSL internet with about 100, like about 1 megabit up, which meant that it really wasn't worth it. The quality wasn't there. So we moved on from that, and I thought, well, no, I'll do some pre-recorded videos and more tutorial stuff. But yeah, the name stuck because once you have a website and then a domain name, and then I registered my business name here in Australia, because you've got to protect your business names even when you start. There's my first tip for
Yeah.
you folks. If you're doing this sort of thing, once you have a registered business name, once you're using a name regularly, register it, because if it becomes successful and someone else registers it, you kind of don't have a leg to stand on. So yeah, now I am stuck with Studio Live Today, but I kind of like it. I think it still says enough about what I do. Would I get slightly more views if I was called Mobile Recording Tutorials Channel? Probably, but hey, it is what it is, as we say.
Well, no, I think it's really smart because, Apple could tomorrow. You could have called your channel like, the you know, Garageband tutorials today or something,
Hmm.
and if you did that, that would make a lot of sense right now. But Apple could go and change to Logic
Yeah.
Pro Lite, and then all of a sudden you got to you got to really reconfigure everything. So Studio Live
Yeah.
Today is nice and generic. It'll cover pretty much anything in the recording, mobile recording, whatever.
Yeah, and I think and what I did about 2 years ago was change the name of the channel to Pete Johns dash Studio Live Today. So I kind of realized at the time that the reason I didn't do it early on is that I have a real problem with the self promotion side of things. Despite the fact that I worked in sales and marketing in my real world, self promotion and selling myself and your personal brand and all that kind of stuff doesn't come naturally to me. Card carrying introvert, so it is challenging for me at times to actually embrace the whole sales aspect and selling myself. But then I just saw a benefit because I said to myself at the time, I'm like, what did you say when you came into this? You said you wanted to have a combination. You wanted to inject your own personality, but also do the tutorial stuff. So if you want to do that, own it. Call yourself Pete Johns. Put your name across everything, and yeah, it's been good. It's if anything improved the overall success of the channel. So there you go. Tip number 2 for those following at home. Yeah, push yourself out of your comfort zone. And if, like me, you don't like it when people are very arrogant and out there, and you just want to be all humble, yeah, do that, but don't be a martyr about it. Don't do it at your own adversity. Like, don't actually damage your own self by refusing to do it just because other people do it in a bad way. Do it yourself, but do it in a good way.
Yeah, and I totally hear you on the self promotion thing. 'Cause I'm the same way. I hate that side of it.
It's
It's a necessary
tough.
evil.
It is, and you know, one of the things that I grapple with ongoing, like I struggle with even to this date, is yeah, being able to find that balance between following enough of what other people are doing and saying and the best practices and whatnot, but also staying true to myself. Because there have been times where I knew that I would probably be able to double my views and double my subscribers in the next year if I take a different direction, if I go down the negative path, if I start doing the things where I'm talking badly about different people or software, if I embrace the drama. But as you know, and as most people that know me know, I am so anti-drama that I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So to the point where I sometimes, again, hamstring myself because I'm like, oh, that thumbnail is just a little bit too clickbaity. I'm just going to pull back on it a little bit. And now I'm like, actually, I'm going to go with it. So yeah, last week I was doing that, and I did the percussionist, and I wanted to call the video More Cowbell, and I got the picture of Will Ferrell hitting the cowbell from the Saturday Night Live sketch.
Nice.
And I'm like, do I put this in here? And I'm like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to do it. And here's the thing, had zero negative feedback about that. A couple of people probably disliked it because they're like, oh, who's trying to get on the back of a meme? And I'm like, yeah, probably a little bit. But guess what? It's the percussionist. You can add more cowbell. There's nothing incorrect about the title. So yeah, it's a balancing act. Like everything in life, it's not all of one or all of the other. It's not black or white. It's this big, oozy grey area, which I'm sure you can attest to, Tom, from your experience in the world of YouTube.
Oh yeah. So, tell me about the what kind of artists and bands were you listening to when you were growing up in your formative years? I think I know kind of, but for the benefit of everyone else, like, let us know.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I've said to you before that I read an article once that said your music and kind of what you think of the best music is defined by what you listened to when you were 18. And what I listened to when I was 18 in the year of our Lord 1997, 98, was a lot of grunge, post-grunge, punk, alternative rock. So here in Australia we have a radio station called Triple J, and basically anything they played on Triple J between the years of 1992 and about 2001 is what I liked and what I listened to. So that was a lot of, so for international bands that you'd know, we're talking, of course, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. For Australian stuff that you might not know as well, we had Silverchair and Spiderbait and other sort of alternative rocky kind of bands that I got into. Loved later on a little bit more laid back, so your Ben Folds and your Ben Quellas and your sort of piano-based music, which is why I got very heavily into, keys-based music and more folksy kind of stuff there. And then, yeah, even later on, sort of more of the acoustic stuff that's formed what I like to play and create now, which is artists like Jack Johnson and the Whitlams, who are an Australian band as well. So yeah, kind of ran the gamut, but I'm a basic B when it comes to this, because you're like, oh, you were a grunge rocker in the 90s, so you must like all those grunge bands. And it's like, yes, I do. There aren't too many that I don't. And then if you sort of go a little bit off to the side, Tool is probably the hardest rock band that I like. I was never into metal as such. And in fact, when people started telling me that Tool was a metal band, I was like, really? They didn't feel like metal to me. I always thought metal was Metallica and Iron Maiden and Sabbath and like more of that really metal-y stuff. But
they're like, they straddle the line between like prog and metal and alternative. They're kind of in that stew, and they're kind of their own unique thing too.
That's kind of what I think. And then yeah, Radiohead. So OK Computer. If you just want to kind of know, if you're like, okay, what kind of shaped everything about Pete Johns, just put OK Computer on by Radiohead and just listen to that end to end, because that has the weird and wacky stuff that I love with the little computer voice bits in there. It has the hard rocking stuff. It has the nice ballady stuff. And yeah, so that would be, and that is in fact the Tools Anima and Radiohead's OK Computer are the two albums that I've listened to more than any others. So if you want to know a bit more about me, just listen to those two albums and you'll be all in.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to Radiohead, I'm kind of like that. I know OK Computer and a little bit of the Benz. Was that the one that was
Yeah.
has like Creep and stuff on it?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Well, yeah, look, Radiohead went off in some different directions. And I must admit, I
Yeah.
liked early Coldplay as well. There's something about these UK bands that they get. U2 were kind of the same thing. I don't know what it is about UK bands, and forgive me, UK music lovers, but that they seem to have a first album, get a bit of success, have an amazing kind of sophomore follow-up album, and then like get all up in their own business and produce things like Kid A. Sorry,
Yeah.
Radiohead fans that love Kid A, but I was like, yeah, not a fan, and Rainbows and all the other ones. So yeah, I'm the same. That it kind of went a little down from there. So yeah, look, it's okay. But I don't know. I must admit, I'm trying to get into more newer music these days. My wife and I sit down and we listen to music, and I'm like, we're going to get old. If we don't listen to new music, we're just going to be those people that we accused our parents of being. Because now that when we're in the 90s and our parents were listening to 60s music, and now that we're in the 20s and we're listening to mostly 90s music, I'm thinking, probably I'm going to get very old very quickly if I don't embrace some newer music. So I got to admit, I'm absolutely into 21 Pilots at the moment. Their new album Clancy is just ridiculously good, and I know it's a very basic opinion, because anyone that likes, they've got 13 million YouTube subscribers, and they're probably one of the biggest sort of rock bands that are left, because don't know if you've noticed, Tom, but rock music kind of taken a little bit of a dive down, and if you look
Yeah.
at the charts and what's popular,
Well,
not a whole
it's
lot of rock
actually,
bands.
if you watch like some of Rick Beato's stuff, it's making a comeback now.
Mm,
Sort of. Like there's elements of like indie rock and stuff that are becoming more
yeah.
popular. Like guitar music has increased by a percentage. I don't know who counts these beans, but apparently there's somebody who does. And yeah,
Yeah.
guitar music is on the upswing a little bit, but probably
Yeah.
not like we experienced it.
Yeah, and it is good to get back into that. And all that being said, I dig a lot of stuff as well. I'm a bit of a closet hip hop fan as well. I like, I've always said that I don't even say guilty pleasure anymore, but one of my pleasures back in the 90s is that I would spin Nevermind, and then I would grab Boyz II Men's 2 album and throw that on immediately afterwards and be, I make love to you. So like, yeah, I was a fan of melodies and harmonies, I guess. And that's why I never got into so I've never into death metal or black metal or anything like really hard rock, as soon as it lost the melodies and the harmonies. And it's also why I'm not into EDM or much sort of electronic and dance music, because if it sits in the same chord for the entire song, I'm probably not a fan, because I love chord changes and I love variation and I love dynamics. And if something's just like and it's sitting in D minor for 4.5 minutes and then it changes, it's always fun when you're at a club and then the music changes and it's like and they're like, oh man, I love this song. I'm like, is this
Yeah.
not the same song? Have we not been listening to the same song for the last like 30 minutes? So
No,
yeah.
I saw a band like that.
Oh
And
yeah.
wasn't really a band, it was a solo artist. I saw a solo artist like that. They were the opener for who I went there to go see. And I liked the music, but I was like, I think it was like I felt like I listened to like one song for
Yeah.
like 25 minutes, and then it switched, and then there was one other song that was like the big single that they play at the
Yeah.
end. And yeah, so I know what you mean with that.
Yeah, it can get repetitive, but yeah, as Chris says, yeah, some good new folky rock around. So I think, yeah, a lot of this. I don't know, because I know that I do like the fact that a lot of my artists that I liked back in the day are doing their thing and they're still out there, and they're the 20th anniversary, the 25th anniversary, the 30th anniversary. But I also kind of wish that they would embrace some new things and play some new music and create new stuff. So kudos to like bands like Pearl Jam, who are actually still still out there producing new music and trying to move with the times, not just sitting. They could easily rest on their laurels and just spin everything from Ten and Verses and Vitalogy for the next like 20 years until they're old Rolling Stones men being wheeled around to different venues. But yeah, they're still making new music, and yeah, there is definitely there's so much good music out there. And to be honest, I listen to more music from the community here because I'm so ingrained in the community, and I run a show as you do as well, playing indie music and independent music. That it does leave me with less time to actually embrace and listen to more professional, for want of a better word, music. So yeah, I'm not into your playlists. I'm not into the radio. I don't like being told. But sometimes I'll just stick YouTube on. That's kind of my listening device, and I'll just play a
Yep.
song and then see what YouTube plays after that. So it's kind of how I discovered 21 Pilots, because it kept coming back to that. And so because YouTube's algorithm kind of knows you and knows what you've watched and what you like,
Yeah.
it kept coming back and playing the songs by this band called 21 Pilots. And I went down the rabbit hole and listened to all their back catalogue, and I'm like, oh man, this is so good. So yeah, sometimes I'll just throw things on, and sometimes I'll throw music on, and then it'll be a Thomas Christ song, and I'll be like, yeah, see, it knows what I like.
There you go. Now, speaking, we were talking about grunge before.
Mm.
You were in a grunge band originally,
I was.
Scarper. Can you
Scarpa.
tell me a little bit about that and the guys that were in it? How'd you meet them, and what's the story?
So Scarpa was formed in high school out of the first band I played in was a band called Shonky Wiring. So yeah, Shonky, which most of you would know just means dodgy, and it was named after a guy that played guitar in the band who would literally make his own guitar pedals. So he's like, oh, you don't need to go out and buy a DS1, I'll make a DS1. And he got like a $10 electronics kit and like put all the things together and put a jack on it and plugged in, and he'd have a backpack on the stage and plug into that, and that would be his distortion pedal. And yeah, he was a wacky dude. So at that time it was myself and two school friends, and it was guitar. And like we didn't really know. We didn't have any other. And
We all
eventually-
play guitar.
we all play
What are we doing?
guitars. Yeah. And eventually we convinced my mate Tom, we're like, can you play bass? And he's like, yeah, all right. So we went and bought like a cheap $50 bass, and he shifted from guitar to bass, so we could at least be guitar, bass. So we played around for a while, and yeah, we're just sort of having fun, played cover songs, didn't really write any of our own stuff. And then the guitarist moved away and didn't play with us anymore. And Tom, my bass player's mum, was dating a dude whose son was a drummer, and it's just the way it works. And it's like, oh, he plays drums, do you want to come and jam? And we did. And it was the time of 3-piece indie alternative grunge bands being all the rage. So it was
Yeah.
me on guitar then, and Tom on bass, and Francis our drummer. And yeah, we just started playing again cover songs. Of course, it was Nirvana, it was Pearl Jam, it was the style at the time, Silverchair. So we'd jam on those, and then we'd just sort of start doing some free form kind of jamming where you just play. And again, it was not complicated stuff. You've heard Scarpa. It's not complex stuff. It's power chords, and
It's good stuff, though. You were writing good stuff because you did a lot of original songs with them. Maybe not a lot, but you did some.
Yeah, so we had about 20 original songs in the end. So we'd get together. I was the main songwriter, so I would sit at home and plonk away on a guitar and work out some chords and work out some vague lyrics, and then we'd get together with very dodgy setups. We'd be recording to an old boom box to start with, and then
Yes.
eventually we upgraded to a 4-track recorder. But yeah, most of our stuff was literally just, let's just have a rehearsal and we'll hit record. And no idea where these tapes are now. They'd be super hilarious to listen to, because a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds just standing around and playing all sorts of weird and eclectic stuff. But yeah, so we'd play and started writing songs, and yeah, as the normal teenage angst frustration songs. So I pulled a lot from the bands that I was listening to, and then a lot from my own experience. And yeah, I look back on them now, and I'm like, oh man, this is some messed up incel bullshit that I'm listening to here. It does not.
Well,
I do not relate to the
everything
lyrics.
was was back
It
then.
really was. I'm just like, why was I so angry and frustrated all the time? Like, this is just horrible. But no, I want to go back and go, Pete. It gets better, mate. You don't have to. Not every song has to be about how the world's against you. But yeah, anyway. So that was my sort of songwriting style. And then yeah, we did a couple of recordings. Went and recorded twice. So we recorded two 5-track, or one 5-track, one 6-track demo. Put those together into sort of one album that we got produced to tape. So we actually, this was the day, so this was 1998. So we're
Uh-huh.
talking 26 years ago. So there was no CD production was just there, but it was so expensive. It was $50 per CD. So we actually
Oh
got two
wow.
CDs produced of our two demo tapes, but it was $50 each for those master CDs. And then I think for the tapes, we paid like $5 a piece and then sold them for like $10 when we played the very few gigs we played. So yeah, it was a very different world. But the related thing to what I do now is I even though it took me 20 years after this to start doing it again myself, I kind of fell in love with the whole recording process. Well, once I learnt about multi-tracking, and because we recorded at this dude had a house in the suburb here in Adelaide, and he had an 8-track hard drive recorder, like one of the first 8-track hard drive recorders ever made. And I was just blown away. I'm like, wait, it records to a hard drive? There's no tape involved. There's no CD. There's no mini disc. There's no DAT. It's like, what? So yeah, it was recording to this hard drive. And then when I realized, because we didn't know shit. We were just playing and
Yeah.
jamming as a band. And then I'm like, oh wait, you mean that I can record a guitar solo over the top of my guitar chords, and I can record a backing. I don't have to rely on my bandmates to sing backing vocals live. I can sing a second vocal track over the top of my first vocal track. So yeah, that kind of blew me away. And yeah, it wasn't until decades later that I kind of rejoined that. But then yeah, I thought back and I'm like, yeah, that's right. I was part of this when you could sort of first do it digitally, and now here we are, where I have more power in this phone by about 10x than he had in that because I think I had like 160. Was it 100? No, it was like a one gigabyte hard drive or 2 gigabytes of hard drive. So you could literally record
And
about 30.
nowadays we would look at that and say, wait, what?
You could record like something like 30 minutes of total music, and then you'd have to
Yeah.
dump it off to DAT tape. You'd have to mix it and master it. So there was no just sitting on projects. You recorded your demos. They were mixed. They were mastered down to a DAT tape, and then he had to delete them because there was no storage in those days to keep all of these. So yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, the Scarpa then didn't really last that long because the guys went to uni, and we started working, and real life girlfriends and other things got in the way. So yeah, so we lived the semi rock star dream for a couple of years. Played maybe 7 or 8 gigs total over that period of time. Just private parties. I think we played in pubs once or twice. We did the first gig we played was in a pub, and it was like a Saturday afternoon gig. And I think I've told this story before, but our drummer was only 16. Like, we were 18. We just turned 18, and Francis is 2 years younger than us, so he was 16. So we were like, oh shit, like, well, we won't tell anyone. We won't say anything about his age, but we'll just go into this pub because technically needed to be 18 to be playing in this pub.
Yeah.
And we went in there in the afternoon, and the clientele was on the dodgy side. It was in sort of not a great
Uh-oh.
suburb or area of Adelaide. And we went in there, and the guy's like, oh yeah, you're that band that's coming into play, aren't you? We're like, yeah, yeah. And he's like, oh, we just need to clean up because we've just had the girls on stage, and they use a lot of lotion, and it's a bit on the floor. We don't want you guys to slip over. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Turns out this was a particular type of pub we have here in Adelaide, which is during the day, it's sort of your classic workman's pub where there's a few ladies that attend that take some of their clothes off and dance around on the stage. And then
Oh
they were
boy.
converting for the afternoon because this is the midday crowd that
Yeah.
are going in there to see the show, and then they're converting for the afternoon for like the young rock band to come and play on the same stage. So that was our welcome to the real world, welcome to adult life. Boys, this is what it's like out here. So, yeah, thankfully none of us slipped over, and they'd managed to mop up any of the spills from earlier in the day.
Oh boy. Uh-oh. Well, thank goodness for that, right?
Yeah. it was a bit rough, but it's experiences because I get to get to look back on it and have a laugh and talk about it now. So, yeah.
Totally. Um, Now, I'm sure that so so let's before I get to that, were you in the crowd that I know a lot of people like you kind of like grow up and adult happens and you get away from music. Did that happen to you, or did you always kind of stay in music?
Yeah, so definitely got away from it. Definitely the creation side. There were times. So for a long period of time, I was completely doing nothing. I still listened to music. So I like to think I kept my finger in the game by just buying copious amounts of CDs, and the collection that I now have of many thousands of CDs tells that story. So I would still listen to music. I still loved music. I would embrace it, and even when I was working, I remember I'd always have the radio on. I knew all the artists and all the songs. But yeah, as far as creating goes, I just completely lost it. And part of my motivation for doing what I do now is actually to help folks rediscover it. So a vast majority, I know many of the folks watching here, by the way, hello to the folks who are watching here today, but that are watching live, but many of the folks that I've been hopefully helping over the last few years were exactly where I was, where I played in a band in school, or I played in a band
Yeah,
when I was
yeah,
younger, and then, yeah, life and work and mortgages and kids and marriages and everything like that gets in the way. And then you kind of reach this age. And for most of the folks I see, it's in sort of your 40s, 50s, even 60s and 70s, where they're like, hey, it's kind of ridiculous that I'm not making music. And I love music and I loved creating music in the past. And guess what? Now it's really easy. But there's that barrier to entry where people kind of don't want to get back into it. And I remember that's exactly what I had. I think back to my experience of going, I need to find a DAW. And in fact, before Reaper, it was something called Music Creator 7, which was the cut down cakewalk version that I started using. And I actually really loved that because it was actually kind of simple. It had these SI instruments that you could just throw onto things and just play in with your typing
that's
keyboard.
cool.
And so I was getting into it again. And then I'm like, oh, I need to step up and get professional with this, and started using Reaper. And then it got too hard. It was like I had literally like maybe an hour at the end of a very long day to play around, and I didn't have the time to learn. I didn't want to learn. The barrier to entry seemed too great. So that's kind of where the reason I do what I do now is I want to make sure that people know that it is really easy to get started. Don't get overwhelmed and daunted by all the technology. It's not actually that hard. You don't need to know everything all at once. You can get started just with a couple of things, so the basics, and then move on from there. And there's things like GarageBand these days that are so simple to use that you literally pick up and you're like, what instrument do I want? Guitar? Okay, I press on big guitar button, and then I'm playing guitar. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, I had that big gap. Came back as like the weekend warrior that I see a lot of folks in the community are now, and that's where I wanted to get back into it. And then, like I said, I'm lucky enough to be in a position now where I get to talk to people and encourage and motivate. And I think the worst possible outcome, and I sort of chatted to some people about this early on, is people that have been discouraged from making music. The reason that if I get on my
Yeah,
high horse and my soapbox and rant, it's when I see the trolls and the horrible, hateful people, or the misguided people with low self-esteem on the internet that tell other people that their music sucks and they should stop trying. So I'm not I don't get angry about a lot of things, and I don't get frustrated. I'm usually pretty chilled and laid back. But the one thing I simply don't tolerate in any of my communities, and again, people say, but it's a democracy, man, freedom of speech. And I'm like, no, it's not a democracy, it's a petocracy. And I have control. I have the moderation control, and I can kick you out of the group if you are going. But again, I won't kick someone out for their opinions. I won't kick them out for what they think or what they do. But if they come at anyone else with criticism that is unfounded, that is there to bring people down, not build people up, then that's kind of my only trigger point where I'm like, nah, I don't care. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what side of the political spectrum you swing to. But if you come at someone with ungrounded criticism saying, you suck, your music sucks, you should stop trying, instead of, hey, here's some tips and ideas that are going to take you from a beginner to an amateur to a pro, then yeah, I don't dig it. So again, tangents, people. I know we went off on about 3 of them in that response, but it's all
all right.
related. It's all comes back to that thing. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's a great kind of way to look at things, and a good way to center the things that you do. And I think now, because we're at the point that we're kind of like getting into the early beginnings of Studio Live today, because we've gone through your path. I think it's a good point to like just stop and say hello to everybody that's here. We got some great people that are here
absolutely.
in the audience. I'll try to do this as quickly as possible. Hello to Frank Terzo. Hello, Perpetual Platypussy. Hello, Rusty8889. Got my Delicate Giants shirt. Thank you
Ooh,
very
nice.
much. We're all excited about that. We got Mark Bro in the house. What's up, Mark? Christopher Rossie's here. What's going on, Christopher? We got Michael, a.k.a. Zealand. What's up, Michael? We got Tremor Bear. What's up, Mr. Smith? How you doing? Azure the Wolf, welcome. Good to have you with us. And let's see. Of course, we've got Jade Star with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for sending folks over
Having
here.
to do moderation duties with Thomas
Yeah.
Christ actually talking to me. Jade has to do the moderation.
Yeah. And Christopher Rossie's here. Stephen Ewert in the house. What's up, Stephen? And let's see. Try not to miss anybody else. Phil Gone is here. What's up, Phil? And if I do miss anybody, I apologize. And Clayton Von Clues, KVK, what's up? Ray Pierce was here a little bit ago. Let me see if I see anyone else. Gordon Lee Weaver is lurking. Say hello if you haven't said hello already. And there we go. All right. I think I got everyone.
So cool. It's so cool to see the names and
I
again,
know.
I know people come and go and I get that and I understand like no one's going to be watching every minute of every show in every part of the community. You simply couldn't do it. Thomas tries and I worry sometimes about Tom's mental health having to listen to me and Jade and all the rest of us rant so much about everything. But yeah, it is really cool because one of the good things is I feel like the Pied Piper sometimes in a good way that I'm sort of going along.
KVK calls you that.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
he says it in the chat all the time. Dwight Bailey's here. What's up,
Hey,
Dwight?
Dwight. And don't forget the wonderful Bride of Christ, without
Yes.
whom your life would
Amelia.
be a lot more challenging, I'm sure. Yeah, no, it is cool because there's people that, like I say, there's people that have come and gone from the community. Some have stuck around, which is cool, and some have moved on, which is also cool. You know, as someone who, and I know, like we'll probably talk more of the YouTube stuff in the next hour that we'll be hanging out. But yeah, it's easy to get discouraged by the fact that some people come and then leave, but not everything's going to be for everyone, and not everything's going to be for everyone forever. So it's actually okay, and it's good. And I know that my subscription view for YouTube is very controversial, but yeah, I don't think subscriptions are good. I think sometimes subscriptions can be bad because if you don't intend to be part of a community, you don't intend to watch any videos from someone, the worst thing you can do is subscribe to their channel. So when I see subscription drives where they're like, "Come on, sub," and look, I know I'm not having to go at you, Tom, because I know you do it for the right reasons, which is you're like, this person's making amazing music and pouring their heart and soul into this stuff, and if you think it's awesome, then the least you can do is subscribe to them. I totally get behind that, but I also see a lot of channels where they're like, yeah, just if everyone subs, I'll sub to your channel if you sub to mine, and yeah, it can become such an unnecessary race for vanity metrics that don't actually mean anything. And if you end up with 1,000 subs and you're only getting 10 people watching your videos, YouTube's going to completely forget about you and put you at the bottom of the pile when it comes to recommending you to new folks. So yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Unasked for opinion, but
No. That's great. But I see your point of it, and I agree for the most part. I think I lean a little more on the side of like, people are out there. They YouTube puts this artificial goal post out there that you got to get to 1,000 subscribers, and so it does become a thing of like just getting there.
It is, yeah. Look, it's YouTube's fault, and again, I don't blame anyone. I don't even blame the people that do the sub for sub stuff because YouTube. It's really funny when YouTube put, as John Oliver calls it, my business daddy. When YouTube puts these things out there that are like, you need to reach these milestones and you need to reach these thresholds, and then you go to their creator channel and they're like, let's talk about burnout, let's talk about chasing vanity metrics in YouTube, and it's like the only reason people are chasing those vanity metrics is that you're putting barriers on their ability to do things like have community tabs and like be part of the YouTube partner program. If you remove all of that, then a lot of this stuff goes away. It's kind of like Spotify. Spotify, like, don't use botted playlists. Hey, if you don't get 1,000 plays, you don't get paid. But don't use botted playlists. It's like you're saying one thing with one side of your face and you're saying another thing with the other. And unfortunately, it's the users. It's a people that kind of get smooshed in the middle. So yeah, I say that, but I only say that because I want to help people, not hinder people. And I think sometimes chasing the wrong numbers and the wrong measures. I've done it too. I'm not going to say I'm holier than anyone. I've definitely done it. I've done the wrong thing. I've lived in my YouTube analytics. I used to spend more time in my YouTube analytics looking at that than actually making videos. And then I realized that that was an absolute waste of time. And if I measure myself more on my output than my outcome, then that was actually going to be something I can control, not something outside of my control.
Yeah, and like to YouTube's credit, they have made things better because they added the thing where you can get to 500 subscribers, and you can get you have to have a number of watch hours too. But it's a lower bar, and you can get the super chats, and you can kind of be part of the partner program, but you just don't get the ad revenue.
Yeah.
So they did listen because I know like those surveys pop up. I'm sure you get them too. Yeah. And they want to know my opinion. Well, I always told them that that everybody who's creating content should have the ability to monetize that content.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately the part that I see. There's a couple of problems that I see is that people get demotivated because they're not seeing they're not seeing that they're part of it because they can't actually get over these thresholds. So that's a negative thing, and yeah, it's reducing the ability for a smaller creator to actually get that exposure and be able to get seen and to move up. I think they have made so some of the good changes for YouTube. Again, I openly criticize. Same with Apple. People are like, you're in the pocket of Big Apple. You've drank the Kool-Aid. Tim Apple's your best bud. And I'm like, yeah, but I will happily call out Apple when they do something stupid, like make the new iPad Pro thinner and lighter than their iPad Air, completely removing any relevance of the naming convention. But they also do some cool things. Like I like their environmental attitude. I like the way that they look after customers for the most part. And it's the same with YouTube. I think since Renee Ritchie joined as their creator advocate, over a year ago now, we have seen some good things. More people have been opened up for memberships, like YouTube memberships, and able to monetize in that way. You have the integration with Teespring into the merchandise, so everyone can put their merch directly under their videos, which is really good. You have the super chat and the super stickers have been added for more folks. So yeah, that they're realizing that. And look, for YouTube, they need to do this because guess what? Less people have less money to advertise. And a lot of people kind of miss that point that there's two things there. Well, there's more than that, but there's a bunch of different sliders that move up and down. And what we've seen over the last 2 years, and as someone whose livelihood depends on YouTube and the algorithm and advertising spend, I don't know if you've noticed, but we've been through a little bit of a crunch when it comes to finances globally. We've had rising inflation, we've had increasing cost of living, we've had a lot of layoffs within the tech sector in particular, and that has led to tech companies having less money, less actual revenue to spend, and therefore they're spending less on advertising. Not to mention we've had things like TikTok that have taken away from, and Instagram and Meta and Facebook that have taken away from the Google advertising revenue that goes into YouTube in the past. So less companies have less money to run less ads, means that YouTubers like you and I have less ability to monetize our content. So it's one pool of money, and there you go. And look at this. We talk about money, and there you go.
Thank you, by the way, to Christopher Rossi with the super
look at
chat.
This wonderful
and
community.
Still Iller, welcome, Still Iller, and thank you for the super chat. You can super chat, and we appreciate that.
Very cool.
But
very good stuff.
Yeah, it is. It has gotten better than because they used to have for everything. It was like there were arbitrary limits I think
Yeah.
you had to have like 10 at one point. Didn't you have to have 10,000 subscribers to do the store?
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
was. So yeah, there was a 1,000 and 1,000 4,000, which was the classic kind of monetization at all to join the partner program, and then yeah, to have the store it had to be 10,000. I think the community tabs moved at various times. I think it started at 10,000, then went to five, then it's down to one, and gaming channels get it when they have like one subscriber now. I think so. Everything's changing all the time. And look, you got cool things like
Thank you.
this, the gifted
Thank you,
memberships.
Mr. Smith, for the gifted membership.
Very
Hope
cool. So there
somebody
you go.
picks that
Mike
up.
K gets to become a son of Christ. No, what do you call your people?
Chaos Club.
Chaos Club. Thank you. I couldn't get that. I'm just like son of Christ. No, that would be a bit weird. That sounds more like a cult. Although the Chaos
Yeah.
Club could be a cult, but it'd be a very cool cult. If you had a cult, it would be really cool, and you'd be able to just do whatever you wanted. You'd be the worst cult leader ever, Tom. People would be like, "Oh, Thomas, what shall we do? How should we sacrifice ourselves?" You're like, "I don't freaking care. Go listen to some industrial music, okay?
Yeah.
So, whatever."
Pretty much. Pretty much. I guess along those lines, when did you first kind of like find out about YouTube? When did the first idea, the first little kernel of like, hey, I see people doing this. I see Joe Gilder doing this. I see,
Yeah.
I think I want to get in on this.
Yeah, weirdly, it all came from a very strange place that you wouldn't actually think. A course that I went on with my former employer. So I worked for a big energy company here in Australia, and my jobs were usually around customer experience, customer service, and then later into sales and marketing. And I went to a course about public speaking of all things, and it was called Think on Your Feet. And I was a absolutely atrocious public speaker. I would get nervous. My mouth would like get dry. My brain would go blank. I'd start sweating. I just couldn't do it. I was just no good at it. And I thought, yeah, I'm never going to be able to be a good public speaker. And I did this course, and it was only a 1 day thing. And it completely changed my perspective because it taught me that everyone's in the same boat, that everyone has an opportunity to improve and learn. And the whole thing, the reason I rant about practice makes progress these days is that I very quickly learned that you just need to keep working at skills. Skills are not overnight things. And the worst thing you can do is be bad at something and then just go, well, I'm bad at that, so therefore I'm not going to try anymore. If you just actually put a little bit of effort in, you can do good things. And I actually learned through that it was actually not that hard and it was not that daunting. And at the same time, weirdly, not related, but I was going through some anxiety issues at the time. So I was suffering from panic attacks. And that's pretty weird then. So you're going through anxiety and you're a terrible public speaker. So therefore you choose to go and start making YouTube videos. It didn't
Well,
really add up.
there's a thing called immersion therapy.
It's exactly right. So, which I learnt about, and as I was working through my anxiety, I worked out that some of the things, some of the tools, and some of the tactics I was using to manage anxiety actually also helped with the public speaking. Because I realized that when I was public speaking, I was basically having a mini panic attack every time I got up in front of people, whether it's in a meeting at work or whether it was on a stage talking to people. So I kind of put those two things together. There was another course that was offered called the Skilled Presenter course, which I did as well. And I guess my advice to you is, when these things come up, if you've got a job, milk that company, baby. Like if these sort of training opportunities come up, don't just go, oh no, boring training. Take them up because again, I owe a lot of what I did to these. So I did this skill presenter course, which was like a 2 day, more in-depth sort of course. And it taught me like the preparation techniques. It taught me presentation techniques. It taught me how to vary the pitch of my voice, how to vary the speed, the fact that a silence is not always a bad thing, and it always feels much longer in your head than it does in real life. That those comfort words, working to remove the ums and the ahs and the ers, which I still struggle to this day with if I get really comfortable.
Yeah.
So if I'm just having a chat with you, I'll just be like getting so fast and I'll start talking and the pitch of my voice will go up and I'll start using more ums and ahs. But yeah, it kind of just taught me all of that. And then at the same time, going through the challenges with anxiety, I realized that it wasn't the end of the world. And if you start looking at things and what's the worst thing that can happen here, and you start analyzing your fight and your flight mechanisms, I realized that, yeah, there wasn't actually any harm that could happen to me. That it was manifested through my thought process. It was a physical reaction. This is what people get caught up on. They're like, but I have a physical reaction. It's like, yeah, it's a physical reaction driven by your mental thought cycle. So once I realized that I could work out that circular thinking, get out of the circle of worry, and
Mhm.
realize that if I just hopped off the highway and then just refocused, worked on breathing exercises, and yeah, got down to that. So it was very weird. So it wasn't that I thought I want to be a YouTuber, so therefore I went for it. It was that I actually fell in love with presenting. So in the later years, I would actually volunteer to be the person that presented things, and I started doing presentations at work around customer. The reason I guess I'm so passionate about customer experience and how customers are treated by big companies is that that's what I would talk to. So that was what my expertise was. So I managed survey programs. You talked about surveys before. Surveys were my bread and butter. So I spent a lot of time surveying customers and workshopping different ways to gather feedback from customers. I worked for an energy company, and I don't know if you love or hate your energy company, but very few people love their energy company. And we would do these in-face events where we would invite a bunch of customers to come along and speak to a bunch of our customer service people. And at first, people were like, "This is the worst idea ever. This is terrible," until we did it, and they realized that it humanizes people. So it humanized the
Yeah.
customers to the call center workers, and it humanized the call center workers to the customers, and it actually was really successful. So yeah, little things like that that got me there. And again, I know we've gone off on a weird tangent there, but that put me in a position where when I was working and I wanted to do more sort of training and development stuff, I was like, oh, hang on, I don't have to just do training and development and presentations at work. I can actually do them with something I'm passionate about, which is music. So if I learn how to create music, and I know now how to present information to people in a simple way, maybe I bring the two of those things together and I start making tutorial videos about how to make music using the skills that I've now developed as a presenter. So yeah, it all kind of branched out from there. Started making videos in 2017 and did about one every month, and then liked it, did one every week. YouTube Partner Program came along, realized I could make some money from it, not much, but some.
Mhm.
Realized that I was starting to grow the number of views I was getting. Made a video about digging lint out of your headphone jack, and the rest is history.
Now, I have to, and that's amazing. I love that. You got over because I faced a lot of similar things. Still do, to be
Yeah.
perfectly
Oh
honest
yeah.
with you.
You never
And
get over it. You just learn how to
yeah,
cope with it. 100%.
but so you started making videos, and I know the first. I've seen the first couple videos that you did, and you're kind of like in your closet or
Yep.
something in the dark, early in the
Hmm.
morning.
Yep.
So were you kind of trying to do it on the DL a little bit, and
100%.
then
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I told no one. Told no one that I was doing it. Just started putting them out, like family and friends. No, no, no. I think my wife knew that I was doing something. She probably thought I was having an affair or something because I kept sneaking around whispering. But no, I was having an affair. I was having an affair with sweet lady YouTube. Um, it was, but yeah, no, it was very much just sort of because again, I had no confidence. I had massive imposter syndrome, had massive lack of confidence. I didn't have the chops. I didn't think my production skills were good. I knew the quality of my videos wasn't good, but I also, I don't know, I had this inkling that I could get better. And at the time, I was like, oh, I shouldn't put these out publicly. And then I'm like, no. And it's advice that I give people now, which is that, yeah, when you don't know where to start, just start. And everyone starts at zero. So I knew that I could only get better. Very few people start doing something, work at it for a year, and then are worse. You have to be a very special kind of
no?
person to do that. So the vast majority of things you work at and you learn techniques and you learn skills. So yeah, the very first video I did had zero editing. It was literally set up a camera, it was press record, it was show something. It was actually music memos. So it was an
Mm,
old app that no longer exists that many may remember fondly. You can actually still use it if you downloaded it back in the day, but it's Apple's old app, which really weirdly has almost direct connections to the new Logic Pro for iPad
yeah,
features that we have
yeah.
with the session musicians. But it was the same bass and drums that would play along to your chords. And yeah, so I made videos on that, but very bad and very boring sounding. So I didn't really know how to pitch my voice and how to keep interest. Didn't edit anything, so there were lots of gaps and pauses, and the quality was terrible because I was literally recording an iPhone 5S with an iPhone 4S just hovering over itself. I had no lighting, I had no microphone. I was just using the built-in microphone, but uh, I kept everything up, and I keep it up to this day. And I know that there's some people that have successful YouTube channels, and you go back to their first video, and they've actually removed like the first year of their videos because they're ashamed. And I'm like, no, I'm actually proud because to me it shows you. And it's the same with music. People are like, oh man, I'm going to pull down. I'm going to go and I'm going to pull down the first EP I released because I listen to it now and I cringe. And I'm like, that's a good thing. It's a good thing that you cringe because it means that you're making cringe-worthy music then, and now you're making awesome music, and you can see the progression. If you don't ever finish anything, you don't ever share anything, you don't have a progression. You'll just get to a
Totally.
point one day and you'll be like, wait, am I better than I was? You won't know unless you can look back at what you did before. That's why I say that music and YouTube is more like golf than it is like any other competition because you're only really playing against yourself. And yes, I know there's golf tournaments you can win and stuff, but the idea of golf over time is to reduce your handicap. If you're playing off 30 when you start and then you're playing off 10, or you become a scratch golfer, meaning that you can get par for the course on most of the time, then that's a good thing. But if you don't keep those scorecards from when you were 30 over every single round, you won't know. You won't feel that progression. So yeah, embrace your old failures, because again, it's only a micro failure. Micro failures, macro success.
Yeah, and in my experience, like I go back and listen to my old stuff, and I think like there's great songs here. Like obviously, I didn't know how to produce or didn't even have the capability to produce, but like I've taken a lot of those old songs and I do them on the
Mm.
weekend show, but I've totally reimagined, and just kind of took the good stuff out of it and you know got rid of the
Absolutely, yeah, and that's the thing. You've still got that. You can go back to it, and I think a lot of the cool tools we're getting now, the music creation tools we have, like Logic Pro, with the stem splitter and things, you can pull projects from 10, 20
oh
years ago
yeah,
that you just have the WAV file of and pull them in and then play around with them, and yeah, you'll be surprised. And again, sometimes you actually be surprised at how good some of the stuff was too.
yeah.
Don't underestimate. I do tend to find that some people before they learn what they're doing wrong and just go for it, sometimes you can actually find some creative gold by doing that. And sometimes you learn too much and you're like, oh, now I need to compress every channel and EQ every channel and put a high pass filter on every channel. And then you get all caught up in that and you forget to actually make rad music. That can
Yeah.
be a real trap.
Now, my next question, because
Mm.
getting back to, you were kind of doing this in secret. So when
Yeah.
do you come out to the family and say, okay, listen, lovely wife Georgie and kids, and we need to have a discussion. See, Dad, he's got a thing. He's got a YouTube channel, and it's gonna
It is a
get a
bit.
few subscribers. So when did you have that discussion, and what
It
was
was
that like?
literally, it's funny because it was both literally and figuratively coming out of the closet. Because it was when I realized that I needed to come out and actually make videos in public and be in an environment. So, be in this front room, this studio room that I'm in now. So, yeah, when I came out of the closet to my family about my YouTube, it was when I literally had to come out here and start making videos. And I'd still make them when they weren't around. I still didn't have the confidence to just be talking. Like now, I'll just be like, I'm recording a video and I'll close the door and I'll just start. And I'll be talking exactly like I am now. And I don't really care who's listening and what they think of what I'm doing or saying or how ridiculous I am sometimes, because I am. But yeah, I think it was around the time, I think that having 1,000 subscribers made me feel legitimate. So I think when the channel had the 1,000 subscribers and I was actually starting to make actual money. So, and I think the first time I felt like this could be something was I made $30 in a month. And I'm like, look, $30 a month is not exactly going to be anything that anyone can make a career off of. But I don't
Yeah,
know, I kind of saw there that as the views were going up and as I was making more videos, I saw this trajectory that went, hang on, if instead of making a video a month or a video a week, if I make a video every day and I make them on topics that are evergreen that people are going to be able to come back to, it's basically going to be like this rolling boulder that's going to gain momentum and keep things going. So yeah, having like 1,000 subscribers and making $30 wasn't really the thing. It was going, hang on, I
Mhm.
grew from 200 to 1,000 subscribers this year, and I went from 7 videos on the channel to 50. What if I add 300 videos this year? Is that going to make it, that many times, 10 times more views and 10 times more subscribers? Turned out it wasn't exactly that, but it definitely started seeing that momentum. So, yeah, it was around about 2018 that I sort of started doing more of the daily videos and couldn't really hide it anymore. And yeah, then I was almost proud of it. So then I was saying, hey, I've got this
Yeah.
side hustle now. I've got this thing that I can do that's going to actually complement things. And that's where I sort of went all in around that 2018 time, where I went, "Okay, I'm making daily videos. So every morning I'd get up and I'd work until I went to work, and then I'd get home, and then I'd spend time with the family, and then everyone would go to bed, and then I'd work again. And it all worked well because we all slept upstairs. The girls shared a room, and this downstairs room with the treadmill and the couch, that was my domain. So I could spend as much time as I wanted in the mornings or the night times just doing YouTube work. And as many people know in those days as well, I would also make videos in my lunch break. So a lot of the videos and tutorials I'd make, if I didn't have time in the morning or the evening after work, I'd literally be shooting videos in my lunch break and editing them on my phone on my walk home. So yeah, it was about just finding times to do that. And then yeah, it was the 2020 when the pandemic hit, and I wasn't loving my job at that point, and I really did want to do something different. And I looked at the numbers and went, well, I can almost afford to do this. And then my company came to me and said, we'd love for you to leave, and we're actually going to pay you a little bit of money to do so because they're going to make me redundant. I was like, yes, this is this now makes the numbers make sense and add up. So I was able to actually jump in and do it full time. So from September of 2020 until now in May 2024, nearly 4 years. And yeah, it's not been easy, but it's been an interesting journey to say the very
But
least.
it kind of for you, it was kind of a lifesaver because,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
it made that whole situation that could have been a real disaster, you know.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'm
was
super grateful because yeah, exactly. If I didn't have this, and this is I don't know, this is why I encourage people to if you've got a passion, to follow it and to not be discouraged if it's not working as quickly or as well as you'd like, because it just gives you additional options. And I'm at the point now where I don't. I would love if this can be my life for the rest of my life. I don't see myself retiring or stopping doing this. But if YouTube changes things tomorrow and cuts off the entire YouTube partner program, and hey, stranger things have happened, and I need to go and get a job, I'm still going to do this. I'll just have to find ways to bring multiple sources together. And even in the job I do right now, yeah, I can't just rest on my laurels and rely completely on that advertising revenue, because it has become a smaller and smaller proportion of what I do here. And without going into all the details, if you want all the details, join the Patreon. As you know, Tom, we do monthly kind of shareholder meetings as part of the Patreon, so the patrons get to see the behind the scenes. But yeah, like it's everything. It's the YouTube revenue, it's sponsorships, it's merchandise, it's affiliate sales through Amazon links and things. So there's a lot of different sort of moving parts and ways that I can keep it together. But yeah, you're spot on right, is that I probably wouldn't have had the courage to take the plunge and give it a go if I hadn't been made redundant. So sometimes, yeah, sometimes you got to take the good with the bad, and sometimes something that can seem like the worst thing kind of actually works its way around. And it's why
yeah.
I don't get involved in drama. I like to say that nothing's as good or as bad as it feels like at the time. Everything's always somewhere more in the
Yeah.
middle. And some people are like, that's a very pessimistic way to view things. And I'm like, I really don't think it is. I think it's a positive thing, and it's like when people say, when I get a wonderful email from someone that's singing my praises and is telling me that the sun shines out my butt, I don't get on too much of a high. It feels great, and I thank people for that because it's wonderful. But I also realize that's a smaller proportion of people. But the same token, if someone tells me that I'm a giant piece of shit, I also don't take that to heart, because
Yeah.
I'm not as bad as the worst haters think I am, and I'm not as good as the biggest fans think I am. And I think you can
Yeah,
you can
and
easily spiral either way.
you kind of have to have like a thick skin
Oh yeah,
when you're putting yourself out on YouTube, because you're gonna get And I think I got, now everybody in this community, most everybody is amazing and
Yep.
they're really kind and they're really supportive. And, but before I even got involved with this community, putting, I just put music out on. That's all I did.
Yeah.
YouTube was just like another place to put music, for nobody to listen to. But there were a few nobodies who did listen to it, and not all the comments were necessarily positive at that time. But you
Yeah.
just learn
Yeah.
to.
It's true, and I think the worst thing, the reason that that last song Timber, not to toot my own horn, one of my proudest songs I've ever written is called Choices, and
Yeah,
I wrote it exactly about that because the hook of that one is why do you care what they think of your choices in life? And it really is an anthem of the last person that you should be taking advice from is a stranger on the internet that gives you completely non-constructive feedback. So
yeah,
if someone just says that you suck or that what you're doing is bad, quote unquote, bad, then that's not the person you should be listening to. And not to say that you should block your ears and block your eyes and not ever take on any feedback. I think that's dangerous too. You get into American Idol syndrome where, your family tells you you're great, your mum says you're an amazing singer, then you go on there and Simon Cowell humiliates you in front of a live TV audience because you're actually not that good. But at the same time, yeah, strangers on the internet are not the people that you should be judging your ability based on. So yeah, don't think that they're going to give you great insights into your talent or lack thereof.
yeah. And I hope everything's okay, Clayton. It's a minor emergency.
That is not good. Not
No.
good. Sean Hockey. Oh man, so I see Sean Hockey in the chat. Now I'm
Yeah.
thinking of hockey. Yeah. See, this is how much I love Tom. Rangers are playing in the playoffs right now, and where am I? I'm here, but
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm wearing the Rangers on my head, and I'll get to catch the end. I'm like, it's one of those times
They're
where I'm
gonna
like,
win.
oh, I hope they do go into overtime today because
Yeah.
I'll be able to catch it. Oh man. Yeah, that's sad.
Ah.
YouTube was just demonetized right when I hit 1 million views. Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah, and
Um,
I've heard the YouTube's been cracking down on some things and making it a
oh
little more
yeah,
difficult.
we could, yeah, we could go into all sorts of things about. Look, and some of them are conspiracy theories, and some of them are legitimate. So the thing is, ask the question. Like it can't hurt to
Yeah.
ask, even if you get something happen. And I know that YouTube aren't the most responsive group of people all the time, but yeah, you don't know if you don't ask. So rather than scream into a void or a vacuum, and the same with what we talk about with bugs in software and things. It's like yeah, you can complain about them, but also log the ticket with the company because you don't know if you don't ask. And the same with your Apple stuff. Like the amount of times I've gone to an Apple store thinking, oh, I got no hope of this thing. I dropped this phone in the toilet. They know I dropped this phone in the toilet. And then I hand it to them. I'm like, kind of dropped the phone in the toilet. And they're like, oh, that's a bit bad. But, this one time we'll replace that screen for you for free. And it's like, yeah,
They're amazing at the Apple stores.
they're pretty phenomenal. And look, I know not everyone's going to have every positive experience there, and I've probably had 80% positive experiences. But guess what? If I didn't ask those 80%, I would have zero. So you might as well just ask. Like, don't be afraid to ask and to check out things, and don't be afraid to go to the Thomas Christ merch store. There you go. Jade's put that there in the chat
Thank
for
you,
you.
Jade. There you go. You can check out the
Hello
check
to,
out the
to
merch.
Brock too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yourself and Brock and Frank having a cool chat yesterday. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Brock he's a very talented artist, and he's SGR. He's been he's been around the channel, and he's been around your channel, I think, even longer, and so he's really if you didn't catch that episode, you really ought to check that out and find out a lot more about Brock because he's an interesting guy, and Frank's got a great show going on over there, the Community Pulse. So if you haven't checked that out, please go and check that out.
And it is wonderful, like when I watch Frank, and Frank's too kind, like he's a super kind dude. But he says, we're all here. Like it actually makes me blush because he's like, oh, we're all here together because we all came in via Pete Johns, and I'm like, oh man, that makes me feel a little cool, but also a little bit like, a little bit blushy, a little bit embarrassed. But yeah, I do love seeing that, and the thing is, I love what we've created here because I did resist the urge because it's easy when you're in the YouTube world, a bit like the music world. It's easy to look at the gripes that people have and the rivalries and the competition and think that, oh man, if I'm doing this thing and then someone else does that same thing, people are going to watch them instead of watching me. And Yeah, it's so the opposite. It's the exact opposite. It is the high tide raises all ships thing. And the thing is, it's not even worth worrying about what other people are doing most of the time, except to boost them up. Like it's a bit like my wife has a cool thing that she says the only time you should be looking at what, like if you're eating, the only time you should look at your neighbor's plate is to make sure they've got enough to eat. It's not to see what they
Yeah.
have on their plate and go, oh, I want that now. It's to make sure that they've got enough. And I think that's what I've kind of lived by. And I'm actually super inspired. I get more joy and happiness from seeing other people that now have the confidence to do what you do, Tom, and what Frank does, and what Jay does. And not that I did all of that, but hopefully I showed that, hey, you can just do it. You don't need no, you don't need anyone's permission to actually create music, and you don't need anyone's permission to start doing live streams and live shows. And even if you're not the greatest at it from day dot, go back and watch Pete's first video from 2017 if you want to see progression and what you can go from and to. And I'm not perfect now. I'm probably going to watch
He's pretty
myself
good
in.
back then, though. I will say.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, I had much to learn, and now I have hopefully improved it. Maybe I'll watch myself in 2030 and go back and go, actually, 2024, I was doing all these other things wrong, which should probably be the way. But
Yeah. Now, related to that, like, was there a day like that you can recall where you woke up in the morning and you thought, my God, I there's umpteen people that I've inspired directly to do what they're doing, like Jade Star, like Ron Ward. You can just go down the list. You know, to Leela, everybody that's in the community that's doing all this incredible stuff, and you're like, my goodness, like, wow.
yeah,
Did you have
most
that
days,
moment?
most days. Yeah, no, I do because what I realized that when I first started doing this, what I got the most value out of in my old job, as much as I didn't love, crunching sales reports and spreadsheets and customer experience data, was actually helping and growing and inspiring people. And that's what I always wanted to do. And it's weird when I was a team leader in a call center for a big energy company here, and other team leaders would get like angry and jealous when one of their team got a promotion and they were promoted to like a higher level than them because they're like, oh man, that person's like the general manager of that department. I remember when they were on the phones in my team. And I'm like, you must be really proud then because you must be an awesome leader to develop them to the level that they're now in that gig. And they were like, well, wasn't what they were saying. They wanted to complain about the fact that they didn't get the opportunity, and I'm like,
Yeah.
unless you're going to be the CEO, you're going to see that. You're going to see people come, and if you're a good leader, you don't push them down. I see that a lot. I see people that there's two ways to compare yourself to others, and one is to if someone's a tall poppy, you can cut them down so that you remain the tallest poppy and that you're the biggest person in there, or you can grow yourself. And unless you want to be the CEO of the company, if you're working in the real world, you're always going to see people grow ahead of you. And there's two ways to go about that. You can embrace it and you can be a really good leader and you can help people do that. Or you can be resentful and jealous and a bitter ball of hate. And I know which way I want to go. But yeah, look, I also get it because the main reason I got out of the corporate culture is that I started seeing things where it wasn't people growing because they were good at what they did or because they were well developed or they had a great mentor or a great coach or leader. It was because they wanted to push people under the bus and they wanted to cut other people down. And the wrong types of people got into the wrong roles. Like people got promoted sideways and up to be like pushed out. You've all seen this. If you've worked in a large company, you're like, how did that person get there? They were really crap when they were in this team. And it's like because that manager made a deal with the other manager, and when they got asked about them, they're like, oh crap! If I give this person a good reference, they're going to go to that team, and I don't have to deal with them anymore. Yeah, they're a great worker. They're the best. They get along with the team really well. So yeah, that was what sort of exhausted me from the corporate world, which is why I love this world because I get to choose that. I get to choose everyone that I work with. I get to choose my customers. And this is an important thing that it took me a while to learn. When I first started doing this, because I do, as well as what I do on YouTube, I don't advertise it much because I don't have a lot of time, but I take on some private gigs as well. So I'll do some mixing and mastering. I do some coaching and mentoring one-on-one with folks. And I took on basically everyone who asked me to do something back in the day. And I put myself into some really bad positions because I was taking on jobs that I didn't like. I was taking on jobs from people that were not treating me with respect. And I was just doing it because they were paying me. And then I was like, hang on a minute, wait a minute, hit pause. Isn't this why I got out of the corporate world? Because I didn't want to work with people that are not on the same wavelength as me, that are not respectful, that are going to try and take advantage of me. So now I say no a lot. And it's been absolutely just eye opening. And also, the best decision I've ever made is to say a polite, direct, and quick no is a lot
Yeah.
easier long term than saying yes and then regretting it and not wanting to do it. So, yeah. And look, I know I make some people feel bad because they're like, oh, I'd really love for you to work on this project with me and I can pay you this amount. And I'm like, that's all great, but I don't think my skill set is right for that. I think that there's some other people, and then I'll suggest people, or I'll say maybe you need to get in touch with one of the wonderful people in this community that can actually help you out with that. So it's not that I say no, I just say not for me, or even not right now. For some people, I've said I'm not in the right spot at the moment to do that. Send me an email in 3 months' time, or if you don't find anyone else, and then sometimes I can help out with it. So, yeah, I know that was again a long bow to draw to go from where we were to here, but that's what happens when we have chats like this, Tom. We get
Yeah,
into
no,
we get into the interesting stuff.
exactly, and that's the thing. Like even in my t- tiny little corner of YouTube that I have, like you do find that sometimes like people come to you, can you, and the yeses
Yeah.
start to add up, and it's like you want to help everybody, you want to do everything for everyone, but it's like, oh my God, I'm still working 2 other jobs, you know, I
That's exactly right.
and trying to make
And
my own music, and like I
not,
can't say
yeah,
yes to everybody.
valuing your own worth and your own time. And look, sometimes it feels a bit creepy, but sometimes you literally have to put a dollar value on your time. Because otherwise you end up doing things for free, but they're actually costing you money at the end of the day. So I know for myself, I would love, like everyone that hits my inbox that asks me a question, I would love to spend 30 minutes or an hour, having a one-on-one session with them, explaining things in detail that they want to know about. But I also know that in that hour, I could be making a video for that day that could go out, that could get viewed by 500, 1,000, more than that people if I actually do a good job of it. So the one to many works a lot better than the one to one. And yeah, sometimes I just have to be completely selfish and say, unfortunately, I can't help you with this right now. Here's a link to some videos. Here's a link to some communities where you might be able to ask, but I can't do it. And it's protected me from so much of getting into the weeds of that sort of thing. Look, have I offended some people? Sure. Do some people think I'm a dick because I won't help them out? And they're like, oh, you'll only do it if I pay you. It's like, well, yeah, but so
But you're
would
adding
you.
value, and the work that you do has value. It's
Yeah,
just like, if you stay overtime at a regular job, you're
yeah,
going to expect time and a half for that.
yeah.
Well, the same thing has to apply because you got to feed your family.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
It is hard, and it's running a business, and it's like you wouldn't walk into a shop and then just like grab a liter of milk and then just walk out, and they're like, "Hey, you got to pay for that." And it's like, I don't feel like paying for that today. It's like, yeah, there's value attached to things, and unfortunately, we live in a capitalist society. Hey, I'm as socialist and lefty as they come. I would love it if we could all just get paid a living wage and then all just get along. That'd be
Me
fine.
too.
But it's not the case, and it's not reality, and it probably never will be, at least in the Western world. So, yeah, we have to kind of, as much as I would love to just be helping all people all the time, I realize that the best way to do that is to protect myself and my time so that I can help many people with maybe one video. And it doesn't mean I don't read the comments or the emails that come in. I always do. And they go into my log. Like I've got a giant log of video ideas and things. The reason I've got an idea for a video every day is when I read the comments and I read people saying, I really need help with doing this. I'm like, great. I won't help you. I won't spend 30 minutes with you doing a deep dive tutorial on that particular thing, but I'm going to make one. And when I do, then you can view it, but then so can everyone else. So yeah, it works a lot better that way. Oh man, I've just looked at the time and I'm
I
like,
know
man, we've
we're
only got 10 minutes. I did say to Tom beforehand, I'm like, we might have to do a part two, my friend, because I know
yeah.
we're going to go off on some fun tangents and talk about cool stuff here. But no, I could talk for hours on this stuff, but
Well,
time is
we love
limited.
it because we're all just like sponges, soaking it all up and learning, and hopefully getting better at what we do.
And that's what it's all about. Honestly, that is my measure of success. And I sort of touched on it briefly before, but like one big bit of advice that I give people, and unfortunately, the real world doesn't often work like this. And when I say real world, I mean like corporate world. But measuring yourself on your output instead of your outcome is one of the best bits of advice that I got early on, which is that you don't control the algorithm, you don't control the platforms, you don't control the viewers, you don't control anything external. What you do control is how much effort you put in and what you do. So that's why my goal for the longest time when I was doing YouTube was to do a video every day. So when I got up in the morning, I wouldn't go to my emails. I wouldn't go to my social media messages. Before I did anything else, I would make sure, okay, what video am I making today? When am I going to record it and edit it and get it out? And that was my priority every day because that's what I had control over. And yes, shiny things will come up. And it's the same with your music. If you're creating music, shiny things will come up that you'll be, oh, I want to play with this toy. Oh, there's a new plugin. I want to play with this new plugin. But if your goal is to create music, how are you going to move the needle forward every day? And how are you going to measure that? How are you going to measure your output, not your outcome? So for a lot of folks, it's like, I am going to spend at least 30 minutes on a Sunday evening every week creating music. And look, it's not going to work perfectly every time. Sometimes shit happens and stuff comes up and you can't do it. But trying to measure yourself, that's why I get so not angry, but I get so frustrated when folks are like, oh man, I put all this effort in and I only got 7 views on this video. Or, oh man, I've been working my ass off and I only grew by 10 subscribers last week. I'm like, yeah, but you did everything you could, right? You put in the effort that you could. The only time you should be down on yourself is if you phoned it in, you got distracted, you didn't put the effort in that you know you could, and then you got a bad result. Well, then, yeah, you got no one to blame but yourself. But if you put in all the effort and you're learning and you're trying new things and you're experimenting and you're adapting and you're growing and you're evolving, then yeah, you are going to get success. It might not be at the rate that you want, and it might not be exactly the type of success you want. For me, it was very weird that I did these 2 courses, that I happened to struggle with anxiety, and the combination of that made me better at what I do now. But if at the time I hadn't put the effort in there and
Yeah.
had measured the outcome and went, well, no, it's not instant overnight success. I might have just thought it's kind of like the old when they made the car. If they didn't change and start invent the car, we'd just be trying to get faster horses all the time. So if you just keep accepting the same thing, you're like, man, why is nothing changing for me? It's because you're probably not trying to change things yourself. So yeah,
Yeah, totally. Now I want to work this one in real quick because I,
yeah,
I know this is something that people will face. So you got 2 daughters, you have lovely wife, and I know you've had some challenges with her dealing with cancer recently. And you have a dog,
yes,
very cute little
massive.
dog. Have you found it easy or difficult to balance those responsibilities and still feed the hungry algorithm that wants more content and it wants it on a regular basis?
Yeah, it has, and look, it is, and I'm glad we got time to chat on this because I think this is one of the biggest challenges of that whole work life balance that we all strive for, and it's not always the easiest thing to do, but I think fundamentally communication is key. I know it's very cliched and it's very simple and basic sort of response, but communicating things is the best. And I think avoiding surprises is what I go with. So with the kids and with my wife, I'll be over prescriptive about what I'm doing and when I'm doing and why. And I do that because I want to make sure that when I'm available, I'm 100% available. So I'll
Mm.
say, hey, kids, wife, dog, whoever, I need to do this and this and this. I'm going to be really busy and flat out from this time to this time. But guess what? After 4 o'clock, I turn everything off and we're hanging out. We're going to watch a movie and eat popcorn and have fun. So I think the challenge is, and what I got into trouble with, not trouble with, but what I struggled with early on was when work is limitless, you can just work forever. And actually having those cutoff times is super important when you're doing something like this. So saying, yes, I'm going to do this. Here's my plan, and here's the time I'm going to spend doing it. And again, it comes to that sort of output versus outcome. If I say I'm doing 2 hours of this work, and then whatever I get done in those 2 hours, it's absolutely amazing how you can hit deadlines if you give yourself those artificial time, right?
Yeah.
Like those
Because
positive
when
time
when
pressure.
you're your own boss, you don't have somebody over your shoulder
No,
saying like, "I need this by such and such today."
spot on.
It's
Yeah.
you know.
So yeah, so just having that self motivation to actually do it and to know when to stop doing it is
Yeah.
really important. So and where I see people get into trouble is when they're like, again, I know a lot of other creators, and not mentioning names of anyone or anything, but they'll be like, oh man, I was doing this and I said I'd be an hour, and then it was 4 hours later, and my partner came in and said, oh, you love your YouTube channel more than me, and,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, that can happen, and that happens with everything, and it's not even like work and things. It can be, you're playing video games and you're like, yeah, I've just finished this level, honey, and then I'll be right there, and then 4 hours later, because video games are awesome. What can I say? But yeah, it is. It's hard to do, but it's also really important, because yeah, if you're not communicating and then people don't know where they stand, that's where it can be those surprises where it's like, I didn't realize that was happening. And then again, just reinforcing. So with the kids, when Logic Pro for iPad 2 came out, which was a good thing, I had to say, I'm like, for the next week, I'm going to be buried. I'm going to be locked away. And the reason I do that is because this is new software that's come out. It's a good opportunity for me to make lots of videos, for me to bank up some content. And then this weekend, I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to hang out with you guys. So I need your help, because for the next week, for the next 5 days, you won't see much of me, because I'll be in recording and editing and releasing videos. But yeah, so I think communication with everything is key. And I would love
Sounds like
to
a
keep
lot of organization too,
yeah, that's it. And
which
maybe
I'm
that's
bad at.
yeah, maybe that could kick off the next time I'm on, mate. We can start with
Yeah.
organisation and go from there. Because
Well, we're
as
definitely
much
gonna
as I
have
would,
to get you back on here again. And,
yeah, totally. Well, like I say, I'm more than happy to chat about this stuff, and it's great to chat with you and with all the cool folks that are here live, and all the cool folks that are going to be watching the replay of this one. And yeah, thank you to Thomas. And again, Thomas.
Now I know you got to
to
run, but
yeah,
do you have
you got to hear
anything
first.
coming up? I know you got your Dry July in June that you're raising money for cancer with your wife. You're gonna be kicking off this week.
Yeah, so I'll probably point folks to that. So if you go to studiolivetoday.com, or just to the Studio Live Today YouTube channel, and they're all linked in the description that Tom's set up there, then yeah, you can see when our next show is. And Georgie's joining me on the show here Friday morning my time, which is Thursday afternoon or evening if you're in the US or Canada, very late at night for our poor UK and Europe friends. And we'll be launching some fundraising that we're doing next month. And yeah, the same regular shows will be happening every week. All the live shows, and lots more on Garageband and Logic Pro and all that jazz. So yeah, plenty to keep me and hopefully all you folks occupied over on Studio Live Today.
Well, very, very excellent. Thank you so much, Pete. Give it up for can we give it up for Pete Johns? Not there we go. I didn't mean to actually play that again, but
That's cool. It's an awesome little ditty.
Yeah,
the
it
old
is.
school Studio Live Today stuff.
well, thank you so much, Pete. And don't forget, we also have our. I'm gonna say goodbye to Pete, and then I'm gonna play this track we got that's gonna be released this week. It was I did a remix of Work in Progress a few years ago, and that's gonna be hitting the stores on the 30th. So thank you again, Pete, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. And thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Great conversation today.
Great to be here. Great to see everyone here. And sorry I have to run, but the life of a YouTuber. I'll see
Yeah.
you all folks soon.
All right. Take care, Pete. All right. Well, that was an excellent conversation with Pete Johns, and I hope you all enjoyed that. If you did, please hit that like button. I'd really appreciate that. And yeah. So there we go. We're going to have Pete back on again sometime soon. All right, we're gonna go out with this this track, and do I have this ready to go? I think we can get it going here. There we are, and let me just make sure y'all can hear it. All right, so this is work in progress. It's coming out once again on the 30th. Much love. Take care. Keep rocking, everybody. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. This is work in progress.
Because we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. Yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. Nobody's doing all they can. Not everything will go to plan.
Because we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. Yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. We all have doubts and things to know and learn about. That we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. When everything just feels so hard, you need to strive and you'll go far. It's hard to grow up, but if you show up, you'll shine and they'll see what you are. Because we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. Yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. With what we know, we all have time and room to grow. Cause we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. The shame and pain you feel inside, perfectionist is why you hide. Trust in yourself and you will see you're not alone. Because we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. Yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. With what we know, we all have time and room to grow. Yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it